Hi, you are listening to Those Other Girls with Mallory and Friends. I'm Mallory, and this is a pop culture podcast, not like other podcasts. We don't just talk about culture, we change culture. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Woo, yay. Thank you so much for listening. We have been getting a lot of new listeners. I'm saying we because sometimes I'll have a co-host called Mallory and Friends. I'm the Mallory part, and I'm just doing a solo episode today. But we've been getting a lot of new followers and a lot of new listeners. I'm looking at the analytics and looking at the YouTube analytics, and I just wanted to welcome everybody. And I kind of wanted to do an episode where I kind of reintroduce the podcast, talk really quickly about like who we are, what we're doing, the purpose and goals, and then there's some topics that I wanted to discuss really quickly. So, if you have just tuned in, on Saturdays we do a weekly TCAP where we discuss. This is the weekly TCAP mug available at thoseothergirls.com/merch, where we talk about just topics that have happened, just kind of big pop culture type things that have happened during the week. We can talk about things from the Kardashians to Demi Lovato to comments Stacey Abrams has made, to the Dylan Mulvaney of it all. We have talked about it all, really. And then on Tuesdays is usually when we do an interview or we do a specialty episode on a specific topic. And that's kind of what today is going to be about. As you guys know, there is an election coming up. November 8th, 2022 is the midterms. And I just kind of wanted to discuss some things, specifically things about abortion. We talk about abortion a lot on this podcast because it is a topic that affects women. That it affects women, it affects families, it affects society, but it specifically affects women. And there is so much misinformation out there. As you guys have probably seen by now, if not, I'll talk about it really quickly. The @feminist account that has millions of followers. Let me look really quick to see how many followers @feminist has. They have millions of followers, and the exact number is 6.5 million followers. They posted pictures of tissue that surrounds a fetus in the womb, and they posted it saying, and the title says, "What a pregnancy actually looks like before 10 weeks," which is misleading. It's a lie. When this initially happened, there were so many comments of women saying, "Oh, I had no idea. Really? This is what people are fighting over?" And then eventually conservatives, not even conservative, pro-lifers came on and they're like, "This is a lie." And there even were women who were saying, "I'm pro-choice, but when I miscarried at 10 weeks or that's not how my baby looked. So this is a lie." So people who were even pro-choice were getting upset. So me sharing this, I'm just saying that there's so much misinformation out there. There are so many lies, because that's what this is. This is lies. There's so many lies that are being thrown out into social media, into people's heads at school, that there needed to be something to combat those lies. And that's why we talk so much about abortion. That's why we've been speaking a lot too about the erasure of women, with a lot of these men going into women's spaces claiming that they're trans. And I want to clarify, we have nothing against these men, but they have gender dysphoria, which is sad, and it needs to be treated, but they cannot come into women's spaces and take their positions. They should not be able to come into women's spaces and make them uncomfortable. I mean, imagine, women's shelters. A lot of women in women's shelters are fleeing domestic violence, and you go into a women's shelter and there's a man. So there's just a lot of things that we're trying to combat and discuss. And this isn't strictly political. I don't want this to be a strictly political, social issues podcast. I still want to talk about other things. We talk also a lot. I wouldn't say that this position is necessarily a political position. We also talk about the negative effects porn has on society. Porn is a net negative for society. There is not a positive thing about pornography. And we discuss that. We have these conversations. We talk about statistics. We talk about these things. Yeah. So that's kind of what this podcast is and what the goals are for the podcast. If you have any ideas of topics you'd like us to cover, or if you have, if you would like to be on the podcast, you have something really interesting going on in your life, you have a story you want to tell, that's another thing too. I really want to uplift voices of people who have very interesting stories, that have a message, because we all have interesting stories because we're all unique. So I would love to lift up voices. We also do a lot with small businesses. We are a huge supporter of small businesses. We will be having our gift guide this year of just some of the businesses that we've interviewed, and we've actually spoken with the creators, and we feel very comfortable saying, okay, needs to be on your Christmas list. And myself, I am an entrepreneur. Quick plug. You can't really see, but I have created a jewelry line. I have a jewelry line, and I have this necklace. It's called the Esther Rose necklace, and it's just really supposed to help you, or just remind you when you wear it about being brave, like Esther was, about when you are giving a presentation at work and you put your best foot forward, when you are having the conversation with your group of friends about abortion and they're all hee and ha and you feel uncomfortable and you want to speak up and say something. I've had that happen to me before. When you are having those experiences, when you do feel like that, I want you to have this necklace and just remind yourself, like, I can do this. This is how Esther did it. God, the Holy Spirit is with me in this moment, and I can say the truth. I can face this giant. I can speak what I have to speak. I can do all things. So that's just a slight plug. Reach out and you can be part of the pre-sale. We're doing a pre-sale right now, and I'll get you over the link. Okay, let me think. What else? Also too, these anti-abortion social club sweatshirts, they are available on the website. It is so comfy. Seriously, really, really comfy. I mean, I stay in it. I probably should not wear it as much because I don't want to, wear it out. But it's super comfy, and it will be perfect for the March for Life, which is coming up. I'm thinking about doing a meetup at the March for Life, maybe a dinner that night afterwards. Everybody, we meet somewhere after we march, or we meet before we march, or something like that. I'm just trying to think of something. It's coming up. It's going to be in January. And if you are going and you're interested in meeting up, or if you're not sure if you're going to go, if you're going by yourself and you want a group to go with, please reach out and let me know. I would love to facilitate us going as a group and maybe even getting an Airbnb. We'll see how many people can get. But I just want to mention that. So if you were thinking of going to the March for Life, hit your girl up. Let me think. I think that's it. So there's a couple of topics I wanted to cover really quick. As I said, we have this election coming up November 8th. I think that also I didn't mention it earlier, but I am a Christian, and most, if not all, of the guests are Christian. I do have and would like to have people on who do not consider themselves Christian, because I think it's important for us to hear their perspective on different topics. But for the most part, the guests are Christian. I am a Christian. So I'm going to talk like a Christian in the sense of what I'm about to say is going to be a Christian. So if you're not a Christian, I still would love for you to still listen, but just so you know, this is the language I'm going to use. I'm not going to change my language. So the election is coming up November 8th, and I just really want to encourage everyone to vote your Christian values. I think that, unfortunately, we've gotten ourselves in a situation where in a lot of states, it feels as if you're having to pick the lesser of two evils, or it feels as if, you're in a D plus 20 district, so you voting for the Republican doesn't feel as if it'll make a difference. I think that those feelings are definitely valid for both sides, because, there are some states that are having elections all across the country that it definitely feels like, okay, both of the Republican and the Democrat suck. The Republican is very squishy when it comes to pro-life stuff, and the Democrat just wants abortion all the way up to 40 weeks. This is very difficult. I think that when you get into that booth, you go and you vote your convictions. It doesn't matter. Obviously, you're going to come out and your friends are going to be like, "Ooh, who'd you vote for?" Because that's just how we are. That's life. That's just how it is. But you don't have to tell them. It's your right to be silent about your vote. And the reality is also, too, it's between you and God. Like, you just have to answer to God for who you have voted for. God has given us dominion over this land, so we should be good stewards over it. And that applies to, when people are discussing taking care of the planet, but it also applies to taking care of the land, our government that we have. There's a lot of things. I will specifically talk about abortion, just because that's a huge topic for us. A lot of things that can happen if there are more pro-abortion minded politicians elected. What myself, and I'm pretty sure every single person who's ever been on this podcast, I'll just talk about myself and the podcast. Just because someone's been on the podcast doesn't mean that they align 100% with the podcast, but I'll tell you this is the podcast stance. We believe that abortion is wrong and it should be illegal, with no exceptions. There are people who are running for office that not only do they want it to be legal, they want it to be legal up until 9 months without question. I was on a podcast, and it was supposed to be a little bit more like, let's have a discussion, the pro-lifer and the pro-abort. But it kind of turned out to be the pro-lifer and two pro-aborts. And it wasn't my best work because I was really thrown off, especially because I wasn't expecting to have two against one. And so I'm bringing this up because on the podcast, one of the women said, her words were, "I'm tired of the oppression Olympics. If someone wants to have an abortion, they don't have to be in poverty. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be incest. It doesn't have to be, some sad reason. If they don't want to have a baby, they should not have to have a baby." If there's people who are listening to this rhetoric, politicians who are listening to this rhetoric, politicians who are going to be voting for that, that is what's on the line. And I want to read to you guys a tweet. Our current president, Joe Biden, has tweeted. Ooh, I apologize for that. He had tweeted on yesterday. He said, I'll read this. "We must elect more Democrats to the Senate to keep control of the House. And if we do that, here's the promise I make to you and the American people." This part is key. "The first bill I will send to Congress will be to codify Roe v. Wade, and when Congress passes it, I will sign it in January." I think that is as clear cut as can be. I don't think there is any other way to say this. I don't think there is any other way to tell us what his actual agenda and plan is. So what do we do with that information? We think about who's running for Senate in our state, and we vote accordingly. That's that on that. Also, too, I hopefully will be able to go through what the Now This episode with maybe one of the other girls. Hopefully we'll be able to go through, and I think we'll put it on the Patreon, kind of just the different segments they had. And I want to talk about the segment that they had really quick. It was about 34 minutes in, about abortion. And the doctor that spoke, she asked if the president would support a federal fund. I'm looking at my notes. A federal fund to provide transportation if someone has to have an abortion outside of their state. And he said yes. A federal fund. That means it's coming out of our taxes. That means we will be paying for someone's transportation for abortion. California is already doing that. So, these are the things that are at stake. These are the things that that you need to be reminded of when you go vote, when you're going to that ballot. Also in that, I don't want to give this person any more attention. Dylan Mulvaney, who I'm pretty sure that's, if you're on social media at all, you have seen that he has already been there. So you already know this. But Dylan Mulvaney, he was also there, and he talked about issues with, he was supposed to be a trans representative, and he asked the president questions about, like, how did he feel? And the president essentially was saying, yeah, we should have gender affirming, there should be things to affirm people's beliefs of who they are. And really what the whole conversation, I just saw those two, I just watched those two. I'm going to watch the whole thing eventually. And like I said, hopefully myself and some others will go through it and we can put it on the Patreon. But watching those two, it really just kind of goes to something that we've talked about previously on podcast episodes. It's the happy versus holy. God has given us a blueprint. God has given us what is acceptable and pleasing in his sight in the Bible. And to figure that out, you have to read it. And I'll say for myself, so I'm doing a 30 things to do before 30. And one of them is to finally read through the Bible the whole way through. I know the Bible stories like the back of my hand, most of them. I can't really think of any Bible story that I don't know. But I've never actually sat down and read the Bible all the way through. So what I'm doing now is in the next 2 years, I'm doing a 1 year study because, I'll do the 1 year and then I'll get discouraged. I missed a day, but I'm thinking if I can do a 1 year in 2 years, that'll also help. Anyway, but all that to say is join me. If you don't have to wait till January 1st to start reading the Bible all the way through. I'm using the U Vision Bible. And what's also great is I can mark down what I've done. So let's say something happened, I couldn't do it yesterday. I don't have to try to find out where was I supposed to be. It's right there, because that's kind of what had happened when I was just listening to the Bible Recap podcast. It kind of was just oh gosh, I missed 2 days, so now I have to scroll back to see, because the new podcast episode comes out. Anyway, that's beside the point. My point is we know what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong through reading the Bible. And you have to read the Bible for yourself to understand what makes you holy. And, some things that make you holy might not make you happy in the moment. Some things that are making you happy could be in direct conflict of what makes you holy. Perfect example I can think of is an abortion. You can face an unplanned pregnancy. I'm not saying that every single girl that has ever had an abortion was just doing it out of convenience and they're just big, blah, 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 blah. That's not what I'm saying at all. I understand there are situations that are so difficult and it can feel like the whole world is crashing down, which is two things that I think of this. And this just popped in my head. Maybe it's the Holy Spirit. Someone needs to hear this. You have to let people know what is going on so someone can help. So that's the first thing. So if you're in that situation where you face an unplanned pregnancy and you're just oh my gosh, I'm scared. In a situation like that, because, there are situations where things are pretty much perfect and you just decide to have an abortion. And that is a whole nother conversation. But, if you are in a situation where it is very difficult and you feel trapped, you have to speak things out. You have to let someone know. And don't just let Sally Sue know right next to you. Let someone know in a place of authority. Someone who is at a church, at a pregnancy resource center. I would go to a pregnancy resource center immediately if I were you. I would go, let them know your situation. They can help. These women are wanting to help you. They want to do things for you. They want to hold your hand the entire way through past birth. That's what they want to do. So honestly, take advantage of it. So that's the first thing. Speak up, say something. And can't remember the same thing I was gonna say, but I feel like that part was very important, and that needed to be said. So you may feel as if this is the best thing for you to do this, to have an abortion, to murder, because that's what it is, murdering your own child. That might make you happy in the moment. I'm not going to deny that in the moment it could make you happy. I think that sometimes, because an abortion is not an easy, simple procedure. It absolutely is not. It's not easy. It's not simple. It's awful. It leaves terrible, lasting results. But I will say, over the years, I have learned that some people in the moment are actually kind of okay with it, which is crazy for me to even wrap my mind around. But later on, they will feel it. They will, because you've done something that's unnatural. You've murdered someone. So it's not, you're not going to always feel happy. You might feel happy in the moment, but it certainly does not make you holy. So when I think of, the trans issue, abortion, certain marriage or cheating and like porn and all that other stuff, I'm trying to think of other moral issues. Excessive drinking. Let's be honest, excessive drinking. When I think of these things, there's a lot of difference between like happy versus holy. And when you're going to make decisions in life, you have to think about which one is it. Is it the happy or is it the holy? And which one does God want me to do? And I'm also talking to myself. I'm actually thinking about situations that I am going to be facing eventually. And sorry, I got an interesting text. I've been thinking about situations that I'm going to be facing soon, and these are like real things. These are real topics, and these are real things to like battle and consider. Anyway, I've gone way off topic, way off tangent. This is just going to be a quick episode either way. I just wanted to say, like, come on and just tell everybody, like, when you go and vote, make sure you're voting your values. That's what matters. It is between you and God what you do, and think about these things when you go out there. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you want to listen to more, we've done numerous episodes on abortion. You can just scroll on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and you can just find it. Or I'm pretty sure you can just do Those Are the Girls Abortion, and there's going to be like tons of lists on all the different abortion episodes that we've had. If you want to just learn a little bit more and you want to know a little bit more about like just specific topics that we've done, that would be a great place. Thank you guys again for listening, and please leave a review if you enjoyed it as well, and make sure you are subscribed however you're listening. Bye.